Hello. So today I'm going to talk about faith. I'm going to talk about faith. And I'm going to tell you a story, but it's not like a singular story. It's more like a life story kind of deal. Um, but first I want to give context. So it's 4:14, which when I see 4:14, what I really see is 1:44. So this is timely because I want to talk about an experience I had yesterday. So yesterday I was having a bunch of interactions with spirit throughout the day. And I ended up taking a nap, and then I woke up and I was thinking about this message I had received from spirit through my angel oracle deck. I was talking about forgiveness and a bunch of other things, and compassion, and what was it? Forgiveness, compassion, and holy love. And then I watched a tarot reading, but I didn't end up actually watching the tarot reading, but I just watched the intro from Esotarot, and she was talking about Jesus. She was telling a story about Jesus, and she was asking the question of, when have you experienced like the works of God or something like that? Um, and so she was talking about Jesus. Then when she was talking about Jesus, she was talking about forgiveness. And that made me think back to this message I had been receiving about from my oracle deck. And I was trying to understand what spirit was trying to tell me because I was thinking a bunch of other things. Anyways, so I was thinking about Jesus and I was thinking about stuff. And then I ended up seeing a pearl somewhere. And pearls are significant to me because of Maitri wisdom. And I just really like pearls. So then I was like, So then I decided to Google Jesus and pearls. And what I found was Matthew chapter 13, where Jesus says, Jesus likes to speak in parables. If there's one thing about Jesus, he liked to speak in parables. He does not like to tell you exactly what it is. He likes to walk around the issue to make you work and to make you think. And I actually really like that, because one thing that I hear a lot from people who are like stone cold about the Bible is that it's not up for interpretation. It's not up for interpretation. It is what it is. It says what it says. But it's like, Jesus literally never said exactly what he meant. He was always giving you a metaphor or saying something is like something else and making you have to come to your own conclusions, which I love, because I personally think that faith and spirituality and beliefs, it's about building your own system. I don't think there's anything wrong with following another system if you really feel connected to it. There's nothing wrong with being a Christian, being Jewish, being Muslim, having a system that's pre-established that you follow. But I also think to a certain extent that you have to build your own independent relationship with your faith, and you have to have your own understandings. It's the same way with spirituality, where it's like, you can Google what 1111 means, you can Google what seeing an eagle means, but it's also like, is that really going to be the answer for you? Or is that just a general understanding? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you have to build your own little knowledge library. And I think that what Jesus did during his time that I find really effective in terms of helping people develop their faith is making people think for themselves. I love someone who encourages critical thinking, creative thinking, and independent thinking, which I think Jesus did. And I'm personally the type of person who doesn't take the Bible in its fullness. I take the Bible in pieces because I think the Bible has been tampered with. I just think it's impossible not to, you know what I mean? Like, the Bible's obviously been messed with. It's one of the most powerful books in the world. Of course it's been messed with. So I don't take everything that I read in there seriously. And it's interesting because in Matthew chapter 13, Jesus is like at this beach and there's a bunch of people. So then he goes on a boat and he's speaking to the people, and he's speaking to them in parables. And he's basically talking about, I think, the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God. That's what the Bible is saying. He's talking about the kingdom of God and how you can get access to it and how you can begin to understand what it means to be like a follower of God or something. I don't know. I don't remember the specifics, but he's speaking in parables and he's giving a lot of metaphors and trying to explain what it means to truly understand your faith and your own spirituality, truly understand how God shows up in your life, what God is saying to you. That's what I took from it. truly understand spirituality and what it's all about. And he's giving a lot of metaphors, and one of the metaphors he gives is includes a pearl, and he's talking about there's the kingdom of heaven or something like that is like akin to a merchant who goes and tries to find goodly pearls, and when he finds a great pearl for a great price, he sells everything he has to buy that pearl because that pearl is so valuable. And I think this pearl is wisdom or understanding or something. Anyways, the point is, in one of those other parables, he mentions a mustard seed. And he was talking about how you can have faith the size of a mustard seed, and that is enough. And I was like, boom, period, agree, completely agree. And in that chapter, they also start, this is where I feel like the tampering comes in. In that chapter, they also are like, and you know, like they give all these examples of the wicked coming and trying to do things to destroy the seeds that you sow, like the seeds that this farmer is sowing. So like you drop some seeds on a stone and like it's scorched by the sun, and you drop some seeds like by the wayside and like the fowls eat it. And like those are all like evidence of the wicked like trying to disrupt your seeds or whatever. And then they're like, and that's a symbol of like, you know, evil and hell, and you know, the angels are going to come and find the good and separate them from the evil people, and the evil people are going to be thrown into hell and they're going to be gnashing their teeth. And it was extremely dramatic to me. And when I was reading that, I was, to be honest, I was calling BS, and I was like, I don't believe that Jesus said this. It was really hard to buy. It was really hard to buy that Jesus would be doing all that and then following it all up with like hell. You know what I mean? At least I don't feel like he would have spoken about it like that. I don't feel like he believed in that. It's really hard to believe that he believed that and like thought that way and would preach that. It just, to me, it doesn't make sense. Anyways, but that's me. That's me. So I'm going to read you what I wrote after reading all of that. This was my takeaway. So, faith is enough. As long as you have faith, you will be okay. There is a way as long as you have faith, and faith can be mixed in with doubt. And that's okay, because sometimes they come together. Faith and doubt are on the same spectrum. And so it is natural that if you have faith, you might also have doubt. That is completely natural. And doubt is a completely natural human emotion. There's nothing, you're not being overtaken by the devil because you have doubt. Doubt is a natural human emotion, and so is faith. Faith can be mixed in with doubt, and that's okay, because sometimes they come together, and that's just life. But when all is said and done, the doubt will be separated from the faith, and you will only be seen through the beauty of your faith. So there is no need to try and be perfect in this life. And there is no need to judge yourself about the level of faith that you have or the amount of faith that you have, because a small amount of faith, the size of a mustard seed, is enough to be recognized by God, or be recognized by the divine, or be recognized by your soul, by your spirit, whatever you believe in, by Allah, by whatever you believe in. Faith, no matter how big or small, is all that you need. And that's what I think that the parable of Matthew 13 and that whole chapter, I think that's what that was really talking about. That as long as you have faith, you are recognizable by God. You are seen by God. You are witnessed by God. And replace God with whatever term you love most and whatever term you connect with most. But I think the point is that it's not about who has the most faith. It's not about whose faith is the strongest. It's not about who received their faith first, whose faith has been lasting the longest, whose faith has only grown and never diminished. It's just about having faith. And it's just about keeping the faith. And it's completely okay to doubt yourself while you have faith. But I think this parable and this chapter was talking about putting your focus on the areas of your life where your faith is strong. And I think the reason for that is because it will lead to a happier life. Where you find that you truly believe in yourself, you truly believe in something, you have a passion for something, those areas of your life where you have faith are the areas of your life that God can connect with you through. Those are the areas of your life that God has chosen to connect with you. Those are the channels that God has chosen for you, because we are all unique and we all have unique ways of connecting with spirit. And so for some of us, that's going to be family. People really believe in their family. They really have a strong faith in family. They believe in family. They believe that blood is thicker than water. They believe that, you never betray your family. Your family is about loyalty. So people have a really strong faith in family. So spirit might connect with them through family. Spirit might give them lessons and give them opportunities through family. Spirit might teach them through family. Spirit might make them parents. Spirit might put them in a position where they help other people and their families. You know what I mean? Other people really believe in music. Music is healing to me. Music is life. Music is everything. Music is world peace. If the world just listened to music all the time, we'd all be happy. People believe in music, so spirit connects with them through music. Same with dance. Same with math. Some people really believe in math. Some people really believe in science and numbers and facts. So spirit connects to them that way. And maybe those people don't believe in any type of spirit or anything like that. But what they do believe in is, but they do still have faith. They have faith in this system. And that system is still spiritual, whether they want to call it that or not. In my mind, it's still spiritual. And so it's still a way that spirit connects with them. And that's perfectly fine. I don't feel like spirit is out here being like, no, it has to be through church. You know what I mean? It's whatever your unique relationship with faith lies, wherever your unique relationship with faith lies in your life, that is the channel through which God, spirit, whoever, the universe, the goddess talks to you. And that's a beautiful thing. And so oftentimes I think that we worry about the places where we don't have faith. We worry and we obsess over the areas of our lives where we have doubt. Oftentimes those areas are mixed in with the places that we also have faith, but sometimes they're not. And I think that this chapter is also talking about letting that go. I know that organized religion can sometimes really emphasize getting rid of all doubt, and really perfecting your faith and growing your faith. And so it actually makes you focus a lot on your fears and your doubts and makes you insecure about them. But I think God wants us to, one, breathe and acknowledge that doubt is normal, doubt is human and almost unavoidable, and there's nothing wrong with having doubt. But you don't need to focus on it because it's just a natural aspect of life. It's like if you over obsessed about breathing, you know what I mean? Rather than just accepting that you're going to breathe. More than likely, you're going to breathe. Unless you are somebody who has a specific breathing problem, you can count on the fact that your body will probably breathe for you, whether you're thinking about it or not. I think the same thing is with doubt. You're gonna have doubts. You can count on that. But they're also probably gonna subside. They're gonna change. They're gonna go away. They're gonna come back. That's just life. That's just the cycles of life. You don't need to focus on it. You don't need to worry about it and control it and try to make sure that you are becoming the perfect person who has only faith and no doubts. That's not normal. That's not life. And so I think Spirit was trying to bring this message forward about accepting the doubts, acknowledging them, and beginning to turn our focus to where we have really strong, where we have faith, all the areas in our life where we have faith. And so this is the story I want to tell you, because once I started to think a lot about this, I was thinking about my own life, and I was thinking, where are all the channels in my life of faith? Like, what do I believe in really, really heavily? What do I believe in really strongly? And I have a lot of faith. in my life. I have faith in so many areas of my life. The arts, I'm a huge love of the creative arts. And I really believe in storytelling. I really believe in music. I believe in dancing. So I have really strong faith in all of those areas. I love to cook. I believe in food. I believe that food is healing, that food is nourishing, that food can change your life, that food is medicine, that food is good for the soul. I believe in so many things. But one of my strongest beliefs is in love. I am somebody who has always believed in love and has a very deep passion for love. And ever since I was a child, it has been very important to me that I find love in this life, and that that love is deep and meaningful and like a soulmate. I wasn't really using that word as a kid because I don't know if I even knew that word as a kid, but that's what I was thinking about. I spent pretty much all of my time when I was daydreaming about life with my partner, with my life partner. I have always believed in a one true love. That has always been a thing for me. And when I think about my earliest memories and, my first beliefs, like I have always believed in love. I have always thought about love. I've always considered love to be real and something worthy of putting your time and your effort and your thoughts and your imagination towards. And it's interesting because I remember growing up, and even now I feel like a big narrative about girlhood, and something that I think that a lot of young girls are made fun of for is this obsession with love and this desire for love and this fascination with love. And it's always painted to be very trivial and superficial and just based off of, like a crushy kind of feeling rather than something deep and meaningful, and almost painted to be something that these girls don't really understand. And it's just, preteen hormones and fantasies and lust, maybe more than love. But I have to say that when I think about who I was as a kid, my desire for love and the thoughts that I had about love and the faith that I had in love, it was not superficial at all. It had nothing to do with looks. It wasn't attached to anybody specific. It wasn't attached to, a wedding and a big wedding dress and cakes. It wasn't attached to other people seeing me in love. There was something very deep and tethered. It was like I was aware that there was a person for me, and I didn't know much about them, and so I would fantasize, but their personality has remained pretty consistent from my daydreams as a kid till now. And there are things about them that have always remained. Like this person in my mind has always been very kind, very good-natured, very kind of soft, very genuine, someone who is quite a reflection of me. And I think it has to do with this idea of like us really sharing something that is deeper than the physical, deeper than just two humans on this planet falling in love. There's always been something spiritual about it. And I have never been able to like let go of that and forget about it. And I think it would be disrespectful for me to even try and pretend like the child version of me was just fantasizing, because I remember that if I don't have many memories about my childhood, but this part of my identity is something that is so strong and has been so long term that I remember it very clearly. And I can even really think of like the daydreams that I had as a child about this soulmate, this person. So it has never been superficial. And there has always been an intelligence there that I can't explain because I was just a kid. I hadn't had any experiences. And, I didn't know anything about love, and yet I really did. And I think that is because my faith, my relationship with love is spiritual, and it is really based in faith. And I think that my relationship with love is one of the main conduits for spirit for me in my life. It is one of the main ways that God speaks to me and shows their presence, and reminds me of how awesome life can be, and how incredible, and how plentiful, and what is available to experience, to feel, to connect, the power of connection. I learn a lot through just my faith in love. And growing up, I've always had love has always had a very powerful place in my life. I never dated when I was younger. I never had any type of romantic experiences. So it was always very independent and internal, this relationship. And as I got older, though, love and my faith in love began to become something for me that became tricky, because I am a woman who really appreciates the wisdom of other women, and listening to women's stories, and I'm also someone who I like to look at history and the work that has been done. And I think that because of the specific way that feminism was taught to me through media and maybe even through school, I began to develop a little bit of a shame and a distrust with my faith and love, because of what I knew to be true about many women's experiences in relationships with men, and with the abandonment that could happen, the abuse that could happen, the taking advantage of, and the importance of developing your own independent identity and becoming stable on your own, and independent on your own, having a career, having a sense of yourself, having a sense of self outside of who you are as a partner and as a mother. All of those things were conversations that were constantly in my circle, and not necessarily my circle of friends, but I guess my circle online, in terms of what kind of media I consumed. There are a lot of, especially these days, there are a lot of women sharing their truths about motherhood and the reality of that and the work, and their experiences with, being in partnership with a man, and then being left and being financially unstable. And when I think about, the fight that women have put forward to have the right to work, and the reason why, all of these things have made me distrustful in my faith and love, because my faith and love is also tied to motherhood, and it's also tied to a dream I have of living and working through the home. So my desires have developed and changed over time. I haven't wanted to be like a stay-at-home mom my whole life. I've wanted to be a teacher, I've wanted to be a cook, I've wanted to do many things, though I would argue that a lot of those things can connect back to a desire to be in a mothering type of position. But I haven't really ever wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but I have always desired a little bit of, I guess, a more quote-unquote traditional role, though I'm not a very traditional person, and I wouldn't want to be answering to my husband or answering to whoever I'm going to marry, because I am queer. So it has never been like that, but it is a little bit, I guess, more traditional. And as I got older, I went through a phase where I would kind of stop recognizing the nuances of my own feelings and kind of flatten things into just certain experiences. So I went through a phase where I just wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and that's just what I want. That's just what I want. And I knew that that wasn't really the whole truth, but that's what I would tell myself, because I did, when I do have children, I don't want to have to work. I don't want to leave. I want to be with my kids. I want to, be raising them, and I want to be at home and be able to do that. But the nuanced version of that would be that I would also want to still be being creative and having my own projects and doing work. I just wasn't quite sure what kind of work that would be if I would also be raising children. So I think the lack of understanding about what I would want to be doing if I was also raising kids made it so that I would just flatten it into, I just want to be a stay-at-home mom. And I went through a bit of a crisis with that idea because of all of the stories that women were beginning to share about how unsafe it was to just be the stay-at-home mom and not have financial stability for yourself and not have that nest egg and that protection. And then it's so hard these days because most of the stories that are being told about dating and relationships and marriage that aren't being told through a religious lens are negative. There's a lot of negative information. And then the positive information is usually through a religious lens. And I'm not a religious person. And so it's hard to completely connect. I do find that I often end up being mixed up with Christian content because I love babies and I do love couples. So I tend to see a lot of Christian family content. But I myself am not, but there's always something that ends up being like, that gets you in the end with that kind of content. But yeah, I started to feel kind of distrustful about whether my faith in love was something that I could actually rely on and whether it was something that was actually healthy, because it felt like I was kind of being a bad woman by that being such a strong dream for me and that being such a strong center of my spirituality. Especially because when I think about, being completely truthful, when I think about my partner, they are to me like a manifestation of God, like in my dream partnership, it would feel like I am witnessing God when I am with my partner. It would feel like I am experiencing the divine when I'm with them. And it would be the same experience in terms of getting to be a mother. It would feel like I am experiencing something very spiritual and very reflective of my own depths and of the depths of the universe. And I would learn so much about my own faith through my partner and through the process of, raising children and having a home. All of those experiences to me are also experiences that deepen my faith, and they're heavily connected to my faith. And putting that type of connection on my partner and on love has made me feel a little bit insecure as I've grown in my womanhood and in alongside hearing stories of other women and on social media and things like that, because it just feels like it is a naive way to think about the world and way to think about love. And it feels naive to imagine that kind of love and unsafe. And it feels like I am not preparing myself for the realities of what it is like to be a woman in a relationship with a man, and a woman and being a mother as a woman, and all of these things. So it was quite scary, and I went through quite a long time of kind of feeling disconnected from my faith and love, because I was questioning whether it was safe, whether it was a safe faith to have, whether how deep it was, whether that was safe, whether this was maybe stemming from some place unhealthy, whether this was because of something that was unfulfilled within me. I had a lot of questions, and I wanted to really be thorough about why I'm so passionate about love, because the consequences of not being thorough and not understanding why you care for love so much and care for partnership so much, the consequences are quite serious, especially as a woman, especially if you have children with this person and you get married, and you do commit to a life, or maybe you're not working. The consequences they can be dire. And I've witnessed women in my life be abandoned by men. I've witnessed people be betrayed. And so I didn't want to disregard the information that other women were bravely providing. And while I would say there are also some situations where I feel like people were just, spilling their trauma, there were many situations where I feel like women were just opening up a conversation that needed to happen and bringing awareness to, the nuances of these positions that we enter into as wife, as mother, as partner. And so, yeah, I didn't want to disregard that. So I kind of had to do a really dig through. I had to do a really deep dig through of my relationship with love and that faith that I have. But I found that yesterday, it felt like God was trying to bring me back to a space of trust in my faith and love and acknowledgement of my faith and love, because I have kind of tried to push it off to the side and place my faith more strongly in other things and say, other things are the strongest, channel I have for spirit. When truthfully, and I've been saying this a lot the past few days, is that I really want partnership, and it is not about being lonely and needing somebody else to fulfill me. It is like there is a core desire there, and there is something that I feel is truly important about finding that romantic love and believing in that. And I don't know if it's I think there's layers to it. I think one, that it is important for me to stick with this dream of love because it is also evidence to me of spirit, and that there is something to, a consistent dream that I've had since being a child, and one that hasn't been, fantastical. It's been realistic, but it's been quite divine. And so being able to actually experience that and have my partner with me would be like a miracle, like witnessing the miracle of spirit. And that is something I want to see. I want that kind of evidence. You know what I mean? I want that kind of, I guess, validation. And though I know that faith is oftentimes about being able to sustain without the proof, I also think that God does want to show themselves to you through whatever means, would be most meaningful for you in your life and your spirit. And I know that for me, it would be love, for this person for us to actually come together, for this to be a real human being that I've been thinking of this whole time, and for us to meet and for us to connect and for us to have a life together and live a life together and have children. It would be it would be a dream come true, but it's very hard to explain what that would mean to me, because it is my longest held dream. And I think that a dream is really equivalent to faith, in this context that I'm talking about. It's my longest held belief that I've ever had, and something that I had before I even knew what it meant. Because it's not like I was a kid watching a bunch of romance movies, but yet I've always had this concept of this partner. So to have that happen in reality would be so awesome. It would be so, I would feel like I am truly witnessing God. And I want to witness God, and I want that experience for myself. And I feel like yesterday God was saying to me that they want that too. which was scary because it's like, you know, and just the modern woman in me struggles. I just struggle sometimes. I just get scared. I feel protective of myself and of being smart and being realistic and just being safe and things like that. But I feel like God was trying to bring me back to a place and is trying to bring me back to a place where I can hear all the stories of women and heed with caution and take heed and be careful and be smart and be protective. And I can also still hold this faith, you know, I can still hold this belief. You know, they don't have to be separate. And it doesn't make me a bad woman to believe in this kind of love and want to give myself to this kind of love and want to give myself to motherhood and to feel fulfilled through that. And for that to be a bigger dream for me than any type of career path. And really for most of my career goals to kind of stem out of this love and this desire for family and partnership in the home. You know, most of my real dreams really they stem from this love. They stem from this love, you know, and I feel that a lot will be fulfilled. I will feel a lot of fulfillment through this relationship. And even saying that, I feel scared because I want to be someone who feels fulfilled independently. But I know that it's not about the other person of it all. It is an independent fulfillment because I feel fulfilled getting to do this kind of work. And this kind of work is collaborative and it is beautiful to me and it involves another person and there's no shame in that, you know. But I think that the independent woman in me and the desire to make sure I'm honoring the stories of women and the history and the work that has been done, it confuses me sometimes in terms of knowing how to understand this faith that I have and this desire that I have. And so it's something I was working through yesterday, and it's something I've been talking about for a while, really. I was talking about a lot on my old channel. But it came up again yesterday, so I wanted to share it here. And yeah, open up that conversation because I'm sure I'm not the only person that feels this way. And especially as a woman, I think it's such a unique experience being in the modern age. And if you are a woman who believes in feminism and all of these things, then I'm sure you understand the conflict I'm dealing with. And yet it's a conversation I don't hear a lot, especially from a non-religious lens. Where it's, you know, I'm just a regular woman. I have my spirituality, I have my faith, but it's not religious. And I do think it's important to distinguish because it is different. And I'm a political person. I'm a feminist, and I believe women and I believe the mothers who talk about how difficult it is and how difficult partnership can be and have spoken about the betrayal. And so, you know, I believe them. So, and I think those stories are important to talk about, you know, and so holding all that while also still really desiring this thing, you know, sometimes it can be really hard and really scary, but I have been waiting a really, really long time, my whole life, for this dream. And I think God was bringing it back to me to kind of help me allow it to like reintegrate into my life in a way that's safe and healthy again, rather than from a skeptical point, because in truth, I don't doubt this, you know. I know I was talking about how there are sometimes your faith can be mixed in with doubt. Love is actually something that I really don't doubt. And the doubt has been something that I have adopted through, you know, the fears and the struggles of other people. But in truth, I really believe in this. I really believe in this person. I really believe in our life together, our future. I believe in the power of love. I believe that true love exists. And I don't doubt it, and so I think God is trying to bring me back to a space where I can say that confidently, that this is actually one of the spaces in my life where I have just clear-cut faith. I believe through and through. I believe and I desire and I hope and I want through and through, and I always will. This is something that won't change for me, and it's important that I can be honest about that and talk about that. So yeah, and I'm not sure if this is happening because maybe something is happening soon. Because I also, like, I really want to be a mother, and I'm young still. I'm 24, but I'm turning 25 soon, and like, I want a lot of kids, and I don't know, like, maybe I'll have kids and then I'll be like, oh, I only want 2 or 3, but I don't know. I feel like I've always wanted a big family. I want to spend the majority of my life doing this kind of work. And this kind of work to me is, I want to spend the majority of my life doing the motherhood work, having children, being pregnant, being like experiencing I'm so grateful to be born as a woman in this lifetime, and like biologically, because I want to experience pregnancy. And I know that pregnancy is not easy. I'm not romanticizing anything. I don't have any type of romantic view of pregnancy. I know that it kills women all the time, and it can be extremely hard. But I still really want it. The same way I still really want to raise children, though I know that it is extremely hard. And there's a lot of pain and a lot of loss and a lot of loneliness. I still really want it. And I feel like that's when a dream is really real. When you're aware of all of the downsides, and it doesn't matter. Like, there's not really anything you could tell me that would make it not be my dream. It's my dream. You know what I mean? Like, I can't choose. It is what it is. I was born with this dream. I have always wanted to be a mother. I have always wanted to be pregnant and have children and give birth and raise those children and use my body to feed those children. There is something, I can't explain it. I've never been any other way. I've gone through phases where I've been able to accept a life where I didn't, and blah, blah, blah. But that was more so about expanding my view and my vision. And ultimately, when I'm thinking about the happiest life, it's a life where I'm a mother. When I'm thinking about the happiest life, it's a life where I am a wife, where I'm a partner. And partnership is really a part of my life. I really love my partner. We work together, we build together. Our collaboration, our life together it's fundamental to me and who I am and what I do. That's what I want. That's the kind of work I want to do. And I want to do work with my partner that I think can be really helpful for the world. I want to change the world with them, like, I can't explain it. It's just, it's always been so important to me and so meaningful to me, and something that I really, really desire. And so I would like it to happen soon, because it's what I want, That's what I want to do. And I can spend a lot of time finding other things to do, and I have. And I found so many other passions. I love to make music. I love to dance. I love to make YouTube videos. YouTube is something I can do while I'm raising children. I wouldn't have a family channel, because I am on the stream of thinking of those people who are probably not best to have your kids online, just so they can have their own independent introduction to the online world, and not be processed already by a bunch of strangers through your eyes, and you know. So it would never be a family channel, it would just be me talking, but still, this is something I can do with kids, so it's something that is an exciting path for me. Right now I'm teaching. I love teaching and I love being around children, so it is something that is bringing me fulfillment. And I have so many dreams. Sometimes I think about starting a daycare. Sometimes I think of starting an orphanage. I have so many dreams, but they're kind of all connected to this motherhood role. And when I think about romance, I sometimes think about being a matchmaker, starting a love community center. They're all connected to this main core thing. So, I know what it is, and I just have to accept that. And sometimes it's hard, but you don't choose where your faith lies. Your faith lies where it lies, and you just have to be willing to let that be. Let yourself have faith in these things and hear Spirit through these channels. And Spirit speaks to me through love, and I'm ready for love to really show up in life in 3D. And I wonder if I'm getting close. So that's all. I will talk to you guys again soon. Let me know what you think. If you know what I'm talking about, if you've been there, if you are there, if that's you too. I would love to have a little community because it's hard out here. It's hard out here. So yeah, okay, thanks. Faith the size of a mustard seed. Remember, you don't need to have a big faith. All you need is a mustard seed. Okay, bye.